Right now, obviously, the market is not in the most prosperous position. We've seen a lot of items struggling in the short term here, and long term, it's probably not going to be the biggest of deal unless we see an operation. An operation has the possibility to go ahead and cripple the market right now because of a couple different things. First up, if we want to talk about active duty cases, obviously, active duty cases are one of the most significant losses during an operation. They drop down potentially 50%, as we saw with the clutch case last time, which was the only one of actual value. But the truth is, they also take a very significant amount of time to recover as well. On average, it takes about 4 months for the market to go ahead and recover from an operation. Clutch case took about 6 months, and the other cases are not too good of a comparison. This is a very interesting predicament because we know clutch case was the most demanded case out there. It could mean that we're going to be looking at much longer than 6 months for a lot of these active duty cases to go ahead and recover in that time period. Plus, if we want to look at this right here, we can see that the new case that comes in absolutely dominates the unboxing numbers compared to some of the active duty cases, which would be creating another problem of the fact that the active duty cases wouldn't be demanded for a significant period after the operation. SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description. Now, breaking down the sectors of the market, the one that scares me the most right now is going to be Paris. That's because if we want to look at what happened when Operation Riptide released, it was actually the tipping point for RMR capsules to actually go into the negative, go down below 25 cents. The fact that we're already starting to see that here with Paris is very interesting, but it's also very bad if we're going to go ahead and see an operation right now. Obviously, we know the Paris supply is very, very large, and the truth is it's the most liquid item in the entire game right now, which means a lot of people are probably going to be rushing to sell off a pretty significant amount of them because they're only 25 cents if we see an operation roll around. This is going to be a very bad thing for not only capsules, but the stickers inside of them as well. If you can buy a capsule for 16 cents rather than 25 cents, theoretically that could mean the sticker is going down 40% in price as well. It's not guaranteed by any means, but it's not going to be a good thing for the overall Paris market if we see an operation released in the current format. When it comes to Paris, although people are definitely going to be unboxing them more, it's not going to balance out and is probably going to be a more negative than a positive thing. Talking about rare cases, we're obviously going to have some issues. If we want to look at the current unboxing demand, 38.5% of cases unboxed are coming from the rare pool. That number is going to be decreasing significantly if we see an operation case because obviously people are going to be wanting to unbox that operation case. Last time, the data we saw when it was released in October of 2021 for the Riptide case, 25% of the total cases unboxed were the Riptide case, and this is a very significant number for one case. We've never seen it like this before other than when an operation releases. And that creates a very significant problem for the rare cases because obviously they're going to be dropping down in price, most likely because they're not going to have the demand in the current moment. That being said, it could be a good opportunity if you want to go ahead and buy into them, but the truth is they're already on a little bit of a struggling path. We can look at the rare case market right now. Things have not been going pristine in this area just because right now we're also seeing a bit of a lower demand inside of this area. I don't think long term it's going to have the most detrimental impacts, but it's definitely going to be there. We can look at what Riptide did. It set all of these cases back about 4 months at least in the total demand that they had in terms of the price we can see on screen. You could also think this might be a beneficial thing because they're going to head and bringing a lot of overall demand into the game as a whole. So it's definitely a little bit more of a balance with this one rather than Paris where it's just an absolute negative, but there's definitely a lot of negatives that come with the rare case market if we do see an operation roll out, especially in the current market. Now talking about play skins is a little bit of an interesting one. If we want to look at previously what happened with Riptide, we saw about a 3-month recovery time for a lot of play skins all across the board, especially a little bit more of the liquid ones. However, if we want to look before that, we can actually see that a lot of these skins were on a downward track. That's because we were just coming off a pretty big hype inside of the game and the play skin market was just inflated for a significant amount of time. It's really hard to say if we're going to see a 1-to-1 replication repeat here because a lot of these skins were down 35-40% before the operation even rolled around, which makes it very hard to say if the operation was just the last drop in the bucket or if it was something that was just completely arbitrary and these skins would have gone down anyways. Now with an operation, a whole new branch of problems just opened, and that's because of the fact that we haven't seen an operation in 2.5 years and the investing scene has grown significantly, not only inside of cases but the game overall. We looked at Paris, it was the most invested item in the history of the Counter-Strike franchise. Absolutely insane. Now bring it back to the shop right here where you can buy unlimited stars to get unlimited items inside of this shop, and I think we're going to have a very interesting problem on our hands. Obviously there's going to be a lot more people this time going ahead and buying some of these gray skins to go ahead and invest into them. There's going to be a lot more people unboxing these gray skins straight from the market. It's going to be very interesting to see exactly where this lands because if we want to look at it, so many of the most profitable investments happened very early on into the operation where there was a ton of people going on. They were opening up the items and instantly throwing them on the market. Is that going to be possible this time? We don't exactly know, and that's where the majority of the profit is made on a very significant level. It's going to be hard to say, but it's definitely something to keep in mind for the next operation considering we haven't seen one in 2.5 years. Now talking talking about filler skins, it's a little bit of an interesting predicament. That's because if we want to look at them, they just continue to drop on down. We're not looking at a 6-month or a 1-year low, but a 3.5-year low for filler skins all across the board. We're talking about the middle of 2020 was the last time they were this cheap, and therefore that makes it a huge opportunity, but that's also because of the brand new drop system. If you want to look at the drop system, you're now allowed to choose your items, which means there's so many more filler skins out there, and therefore they could potentially continue to drop down in price if we don't see an increase in the demand that allows this skin to go ahead and rise. Obviously, these are mainly used in trade-ups for trade-up filler, and by you going ahead and investing into this area, you're virtually betting that you're going to see something that's going to increase the demand of this entire area. Now, if we're going to see an operation before Copenhagen is a really complicated question. I will say, don't rule it out just because you don't think an operation would come right before a major. If we want to look at exactly what happened with Riptide was released just a month before we saw the Stockholm Major, which if you don't remember, the Stockholm Major was the first major in 2 years. Theoretically, Valve was going to be making bank off of it no matter what. This is the first major we're going to be seeing in about a year. I think it's very possible now that it's going to be on CS2. Valve is looking to bring in all the people they can, and an operation in a major would definitely be that area. Obviously, nothing is known for sure, but I will say don't rule it out just because you don't think these two things can come together. Valve has been known to double up in the past, especially considering this major might bring in a ton of people and the operation might be getting them to stay for a significant amount of time. Now, should you buy before is a very interesting question because it definitely depends on what commodity you're looking at. If we're talking active duty cases, these are very detrimental when an operation rolls around. I would definitely be highly skeptical if you think there's an operation right around the corner with these active duty cases because there's a possibility a lot of them could be dropping down significantly more in price than they have already. Same honestly goes for filler skins. If you don't think there's going to be an operation, you're probably going to want to avoid this area. They have a very large trajectory right now on a downward trend. We can look at these. They've been dropping like crazy. They need something to pick up the demand, and if you don't think anything's going to pick up their demand, it's not going to be a good purchase. However, if we're talking about rare cases are definitely one where I think they're going to be overall benefited by an operation. It's definitely going to take some time, and they're probably going to drop down a little bit more, so you might want to hold off if you really think there's an operation coming, but there's a lot of potential in this area with rare cases, and Paris finally is another one that I would probably just avoid in the current moment if you think there's going to be an operation. A lot of the overall investments tend to drop pretty significantly, honestly. We're talking 30 to 40% depending on what specifically when an operation rolls around in the short term. If you have the money to go ahead and scoop those up, it could be a very profitable investment for you to make in that current moment. Now, what am I personally doing right now? Honestly, I'm not changing anything about my strategy just because I think there could be potentially an operation on the horizon. I think it's a very bad strategy to go ahead and bank on an operation potentially being there in the next upcoming weeks and or months. Right now, you should just be focusing on locking down the investments you really want to make, whether those are cases, capsules, wherever you want to go. The truth is, these things are just going to be cheaper to buy when the operation potentially comes around, and therefore I think you should have some more money on hand than you might usually have, but that would be about the massive extent I would say you should be going in this situation. That's all I got. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day.